I remember the times in the days before the quarantine, before iPhones, video games, or streaming and internets. It was the days when you used to have to play with games with paper money. Fathers would smash their fists in frustration on the table. Mothers would stare in indifference as you tried to win. And sisters were always accused of cheating. I remember them days. I'm old now. Them days is far behind me. But Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sanctum. Had a little something stuck in my throat there. Makes me sound like a survivor from a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Apologize for that. Anyways, it's been a while since I last rapped at you. And we're back. And this week, we are taking a look at some cool vintage board games. And that is why we are entitling this episode, Board Games of Death. Board games were an integral part of any kid's life growing up during the 70s and 80s, during those pre-Atari days. And I can't remember a Christmas or birthday that didn't go by without us receiving some type of board game. You know, we had the typical ones like You're Sorry and Life and Clue and Monopoly, but the board games I really fondly remember getting are ones that were based on current TV or film properties or genre-type board games. Obviously, being a monster kid, any board game involving a monster or science fiction appealed to me. And those film and, TV property board games appealed to me because at the time, that was one of the ways that you could sort of relive that adventure to a certain degree. And some of these games were just awful, and some of them were actually pretty fun. Throughout my collecting days, I've picked up board games here and there, and I enjoy getting them, whether they be ones that I enjoyed playing as a kid or ones that I never had. And most of the board games we're going to be taking a look at here today, I purchased either due to their connections to a piece of film or TV that I enjoyed, or just something was artistically interesting about them to me. So, join me, won't you, as we take a look at some vintage board games. Now, I spoke about enjoying games that were based on TV and film franchises. And for my money, there is no better film franchise than Planet of the Apes. I have been a Planet of the Apes fan for as far back as I can remember. And I've always been fascinated with the films, the TV show, the merchandise surrounding it. I love Planet of the Apes almost as much as I love Universal Monsters. Almost as much as I love comic books. Boy, I love a lot of stuff. But anyhow, I am a giant Planet of the Apes fan. And here is Milton Bradley's Planet of the Apes board game. As you can see, as with a lot of the mid-70s Planet of the Apes merchandise that came out, a lot of the stuff was either geared towards promoting the TV show, which was on at the time, or it had a lot of the photos from Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which was the last film that had come out around that time. All the artwork and still photos on this game are from Battle for Planet of the Apes. You've got Caesar, you've got Cornelius, you've got you've got the lawgiver there, John Huston, and then you've got Aldo. I think that's Aldo in the bottom corner, or it might just be a random ape. And then, of course, you've got Lisa, the female ape there. Very cool artwork, very cool cover. I remember seeing this in the store as a kid and not being able to get it. I did acquire one at one point, as I acquired most things from a neighborhood garage sale or yard sale or our church would often have like white elephant sales. And that's where I picked up most of my toys and board games and things like that I couldn't have. I was always a little bit behind the curve. So this was well after the Planet of the Apes craze was over that I wound up getting this game, and it wasn't new. Now, like most board games, the directions are on the inside of the box top. And anytime my dad would get a game and try and teach us how to play it, all he would do is read the directions from the box top to us in the most boring, monotone voice ever. He wouldn't tell us how to play. He wouldn't explain the game to us. He would just read it in a monotone voice and assume that we're learning how to play through osmosis. So a lot of times we just sort of made up our own rules or somehow figured it out. But these instructions they're written by the same people that write word problems for math books or something like that. They're so overly complicated and confusing that they whenever anybody refers to the rules in anything, it always winds up into an argument or something like that. For example, one here, it's kind of funny. He goes, in each turn, a player throws 2 dice. He must take the count of 1 dice and move one of his men on the path by that count. With the other dice, he may or may not move any other player along the path for that count, but he can never enter an opponent on the path. It's so overly confusing. And as a kid, I'd never be able to figure that out because, of course, my dad would read it, in 1 turn, a player cannot change direction and must take a full count of the dice for himself and an opponent. Hey, he may in another turn move another of his humans along the path. In each new turn, a player may choose to change the direction, but he may use the full count of the dice for that turn in that direction. Dad, I don't understand how to play, Dad. If a human lands on the same spot as another, he will advance the next spot beyond. Dad, can you slow down? So that's pretty much how that would go, and I would have to figure out how to play these things on my own. But here we have the game ready for play. And to you folks at home, only a matter of seconds has passed. Thanks to the brilliant editing of my editor, Russell James. But here in the Sanctum, hours went by while I tried to put this friggin' cardboard jail together, assemble this piece of garbage, and it just kept collapsing, and it got to the point where I was questioning my life and questioning why I'm even doing this. What am I, some middle-aged man in the middle of the night down in his basement, whispering softly so his family can't hear him, showing people toys? That's what it got to, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it got to. But anyhow, I got the thing together, and here it is. Now you guys can see it. And that's another part of this game, is like this thing it's built of sort of this crappy cardboard. This is supposed to be the jail. And the whole point of the game, if you didn't get it by my brilliant imitation of my dad reading the directions, is you pick a color and you are either, green, red, blue, and I assume this is supposed to be Taylor, or maybe it's just a random human, and that's Nova. But you have several people of these, so maybe you're just primitive human beings altogether. And you run around the board, and eventually you get on top of this jail. People spin this, you push this button, and either you fall through the trapdoor or you don't. No skill involved, no strategy whatsoever. Pure luck, pure chance. Something to keep the kids entertained for however long it takes to play this game. Like I said, some of these games are fun to play and they have playability. Other games are just, I collected them. I collected this one solely because it's Planet of the Apes. It's kind of cool. You have a 3D environment. You've got these stand-up guys walking around rather than just typical generic red, blue, green tokens. The artwork isn't too bad on the figures. I kind of like the graphics on the guys. It's pretty cool. I like the idea, but it's not it's not really immersive, at least not at this point in my life with my imagination to play it that way. And even as a kid, I thought like, all right, I just got scammed. Because again, it's just one where you move around the board to different spaces. And eventually you know, the last person alive wins. Kind of like life, like I said. So let's take a look at the board itself. So here's the board itself in all its glory with the lovely cardboard corral taken off and all the humans gone. Overall, it's a very generic looking board. There wasn't a lot of thought put into the design of this, as with most things put together sometimes in the 70s and 80s. They just slapped photos, you know, still photos from the different films on the board and called it a Planet of the Apes product. Not a lot of thought into the game, not a lot of thought into the board. It's cool for what it is, and I would have dug it as a kid because, you know, back then, pre-internet days, I would have just liked it because of the pictures of the apes from the films on it. And it is very ape-heavy. There's not a human to be found on this board, aside from the tokens. And it's kind of an interesting choice, the apes they went with, or the stills they went with on this. It's a potpourri of the Apes films. You've got, you know, Dr. Zaius here from Planet of the Apes. You've got a random ape here. I don't know if that's a publicity shot from Battle for the Planet of the Apes or if that's one of the hunters from Planet of the Apes. You've got Julius, the jailer from Planet of the Apes. Battle for the Planet of the Apes scene there for sure. Kind of interesting they went with Zero from Escape from Planet of the Apes, you know, in the modern day clothes. You've got Aldo there. That's definitely Battle for Planet of the Apes. And you've got another Battle for the Planet of the Apes there, and this is Battle for the Planet of the Apes. So very Battle for the Planet of the Apes heavy, as is the cover of the box. Again, that film had just recently come out. This is dated 74, Appjack Productions. So, you know, Battle for the Planet of the Apes was the last movie that was released. No Conquest on here, surprisingly. But, again, that's not something they'd aim towards kids. Sticking with our TV property theme, here we have the game based on the popular TV series Lucan. Lucan was a short-lived series in the late 70s that I just loved. I was crazy about it at the time. It's basically a television version of Truffaut's The Wild Child. It's about a boy that was raised by wolves and comes back, you know, to civilization. And then, of course, it turns into sort of a fugitive style TV series where he moves from, you know, town to town, as a lot of those series did. But anyhow, as a kid, I loved the show. It starred Kevin Brophy as Lucan, and it was a really, really great show. And when I stumbled across this at a toy show a few years back, I just had to have it. I didn't even know this existed. As a kid, I would have gone crazy. And there wasn't a lot of Lucan merchandise. As a matter of fact, this is the only thing that I know of. I'm sure there might be something else out there. But it did get its own game. And again, it's Milton Bradley. And look at the cover artwork on that. Now this is where they put a little thought into this. And this is what I love about it is there's an artist that designed this, and it's really, really cool looking. This is one of those games that I'm talking about that, like, you know, I collected it not only because it spoke to me being about a television show that I really loved as a kid, but also the cover work alone on it is just a beautiful piece of art to me. Now, again, like I said, it's Milton Bradley, and the object of the game is to be the first player to reach home. This is ages 7 to 12. I always wonder how they determine what those ages are. I mean, Planet of the Apes was 8 to 14. This is 7 to 12. By 12 years old, you'll be, you know, anybody over 12 will be bored out of their mind with this. You know, object, be the first player to reach home. 2 to 4 players. And you've got Lucan, 1977. I mean, even look at that. I love that wording, the font for Lucan, and based on the popular TV series. And there we get a little bit of a picture of the game. You know, the front cover tells us nothing about the game, right? It's just that beautiful artwork. And then the back, blank box. So let's open her up and see what's inside. Well, let's look at this artwork a little bit more. I was just about to put it down. I'm just like, I mean, this is beautiful. Kevin Brophy. There's some stories out there about what happened to him. I think he wound up, some guy sort of has been, you know, giving him money just because he really was a big fan of his, and he's been able to sort of live that way. I mean, he was really good. I just saw him the other night in a film called Hell Night with Linda Blair, and he was pretty good in that. I never even knew he was in that film. I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Lucan. And that was after Lucan. So, sorry, I got off on a tangent there. Let's open her up and see what's inside. To set up. 1. Place board between players. Shuffle the Lucan cards and put one card on each card space on the board, face down. Place the spinner off to one side. The spinner has an inner ring of numbers which tells you the number of spaces you may move in a turn. The outer ring shows animal, accident, and emergency categories. There are also 3 wild areas. The outer ring and the wild areas guide you only when you are in a rescue situation. Dad, what's a rescue? Shuffle the rescue cards and deal them as follows. A. With 4 players, each person gets 3 cards. Dad, it's just you and I playing. With 3 players, 4 cards each. Dad, it's just me and you. With 2 players, 6 cards each. Choose a color pawn and take the rescue control chart with a matching border. Place the board at start and put your rescue. Dad, can we just play the game? Dad, I don't understand. First off, I have to admit I have not played this game. Some I've played, some I haven't. I am going to remedy this. I think my daughter and I are going to play this Thanksgiving weekend. So she has that to look forward to. But anyhow, look at this. Completely different from Planet of the Apes. Really cool board. They put a lot of thought into this. It is kind of a Candyland shoots and ladder board. Just go from point A to point B. But I like that what they're doing is they're making it like you are on Lucan's journey. And so you've got these, you know, each player, whether they're red, blue, or green, they've got this card for an animal card, an accident card, an emergency card. I guess you need to acquire as many of each to win the game. Instead of die, there's a spinner. That was always common. You either had die or a spinner, and tells you what to do. You've got these different colored cards: accident, emergency, you know, animal. Yeah, and again, he was a friend to animals. He would rescue animals. You had that sort of very cool environmentalist bent to it, you know, like Grizzly Adams. There was a lot of this back to nature type stuff in the 70s in the TV programs that we would see. And then you've got generic playing pieces, not as cool as Planet of the Apes with the humans, but hey, so again, you've got this really cool Lucan artwork, and it's very 70s style to me. It's almost like you're playing the game on a painted cover of a Lucan Gold Key or Whitman comic book. You know, and the way they try and set up the game is that you're going, you know, you're going on Lucan's adventure. Here you are with Lucan and the wolf, and of course there's a hunter always following him. You could go canoeing with hawks. There's the cover from the picture from the cover. You know, there's a fire there. There's one of those great, you know, planes that you only see in like 70s TV shows and movies. Oh, here they lifted this from the Christopher George Grizzly board game. No such thing exists, but I wish it did. You know, here he is putting out a fire, and you know, this is great. You know, because this is pre, you know, or right along the lines of the Incredible Hulk, where he's hitchhiking from some sleazy hotel in the middle of the night. You know, and then you've got the wolf there, where you make it home to your your wolf family. So, I mean, I don't care if this is playable or not. It seems to be a lot more fun than Planet of the Apes if I were to play it. It might be a little complicated, but I mean, this board alone is worth framing. And it may just be something that I do one day. I mean, it's amazing, and I love this. And this is what I love about collecting is coming across something that you never even knew existed for some film property or TV property or just something that you love. I mean, that's really the reason we all collect, isn't it?